Gotham City Year 1 Issue 4, Tom King writing with Phil Hester on the art. So obviously we had the shocking discovery of the baby, the dead baby at that, last issue. And this one starts off with Slam once again in the police station being beat to shit.
This issue is Slam gets beaten up.
Yes, there's a lot of
that. Yeah, hooey.
Yeah, so this time the commissioner himself comes down and beats the crap out of him, which is seen as an honor.
and here's the thing, and he hints that you know, this is what happens to people in the police station. You know, if it's you know, if it's a homicide, usually the detective will come and try to beat out of people. It's very rare for the commissioner to come down. But even Slam's like, he understands why, because from the police perspective, he messed up their investigation. You know, so of course the commissioner has to come and try to clean up the mess that Slam made. So I did like, you know, seeing how reasonable, you know, he takes his lumps and he doesn't really fight back. He just wants to, you know, do what he needs to do to have it end.
Oh well, he explains kind of why he doesn't bother fighting back later, which is there's no point, because if he takes out a couple of cops, there'll just be 20 more to beat the shit out of him. He'll never succeed. But it's worth mentioning that the reason why they're beating him up is because he obviously contacted the police when he finds the dead baby in the last issue, and that they now know that he was working for the Waynes, and that he was, you know, they kind of know the truth of everything he was hiding when they were interrogating him last time, and now they blame him for having the baby. You know, it's his fault that the baby turned up dead. If he'd come to them, if he'd actually played by their rules, everything would have turned out okay. I mean, I suspect it may not have, but that's what they think.
Yeah, I mean, we're still not even certain that's the actual baby, right? We're just being told that it was. Especially by the end of the issue, I kind of feel like there's a lot more at play going on here.
Yeah. So Slam gets bailed out by Richard Wayne, who then wants to see him. And he's being all casual and just asking to clear up details at first, until he then blames Slam. He reveals that he blames Slam because of him going off to investigate without him knowing. Now, we know that his wife, Mrs. Wayne, hired him to go looking after the fact, but to Slam's credit, he doesn't fess up, even when Richard Wayne smashes a glass in his face and starts beating the shit out of him.
It's until that you know, Slam is trying to reason with them, and Richard Wayne smacks him. Then Slam's like, all right, I'm done being smacked around today, dude.
Yeah, well, this is where he explains in his narration why he didn't bother fighting back in the police station. Yeah. But there's only like 3 guys here. He can take 3 guys.
I can't take 15, but three's not a problem. Yeah, I love that. I love that piece of narration there, and you just see him take him out, and he explains, you know, this guy used to be a boxer. He can tell by the cauliflower ear and the way that he stands, and that he hits him with an uppercut, and you know his teeth go flying because boxers wear a mouthpiece when they train, and they get so reliant on it, and you know Slam knows that about him, so you know he's able to use his weight against him, and then he gets the gun from the other guy, and then mentions that you know his kill count in Korea was 137. And
well, you have to add some context for that last part, because there's a standoff where you know, the guy he knows here that brought him in initially has got him at gunpoint, and you know Richard Wayne's hiding behind him, and at this point Slam's just like, you know, I'm going to walk out of here, and he's like, wait, we're just going to let you go. He's like, yeah, because my kill count's 137. You know, when I was in Korea,
as a sniper.
Yeah, and
he's got a gun trained on Richard Wayne.
And the guy he knows, you know, the head of security or whoever, he just lets him go, and Richard's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm saving your life."
Yeah,
because
he's like, "I'm doing what you pay me for, sir, and that's saving your life."
Yeah. So he knows that Slam, like, even if he takes Slam out instantly after, because obviously he's got a gun on him, like, he will not save Richard Wayne if they continue this. So,
such a it was a well done tense scene.
Yeah, it's kind of like Slam's becoming a bit unhinged, because now it's like, well, now I've got no reason to like play nice. Now I've got no reason to put up with this shit. But then he's back at his place, nursing his wounds, and that's when Mrs. Wayne shows up and smooches him because she just wants to feel something.
And it's film noir to a T, right?
Oh yeah. The way it's shot and shot, you know what I mean? The way it's drawn.
Yeah. Well, so we get the where she comes in, right, and they're talking,
and she's wet from the rain. Let's not forget these little touches that are very noir.
Right. Sure. But I just want to say the art here with Hester is we get the page of them meeting, and then you turn the page when they kiss. It's those two kissing in the foreground, but the background is the page from before.
Yeah.
And so it's just I like that touch that really emphasizes this is a big deal. And there's other ways to do it, like with a blank background or other things. But I felt like him doing that art from the page before.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the confirmed continuity or canon of like Bruce's grandparents. But I'm getting a sneaking suspicion that not both of these are actually his grandparents, and that one of them remarries, and he comes from the new marriage. But not that I'm suggesting Slam's his actual grandfather. I'm not saying that.
I hope that's not where they're going, because
I don't think so.
There is a piece of dialogue where he says that he's 94, and he's been doing this long enough, and just the vibe there. I hope it's a red herring.
Then again, though, why would he? That would be a reason why he would want to tell Bruce this story before he dies. Yeah.
Yep.
There
was just a vibe I got from that where I was like, oh, please don't do this. To me, it's kind of lazy. Not that I don't think, because I think King could stick the landing, because it doesn't really change who Bruce is. Let's say this is true. It adds to him, like, genetically, this need to do the right thing, because it definitely feels like the Waynes are not so good people, at least Richard.
Yeah.
And that I forget their grandmother's name, or the supposed grandmother. Why do
you think I've been saying Mrs. Wayne?
Yeah. They haven't given us the name, have they? It has been Mrs. Wayne.
You're making me question that now. I don't know.
Yeah. I can't remember. But so Mrs. Wayne, it feels like she comes from a different background, and that she seems like a very flawed person, but she's not like the same, like, kind of corrupt that Richard Wayne is. So and again, I'm seeing owls on stuff, so I'm definitely feeling like maybe this isn't the same Wayne, like it is a different marriage, because we don't know about their grandparents.
So there's a little bit of like bonding as he's leaving to go off and do something at 1 a.m, but he's talking about how he had a half brother who died before he came back and stuff, but he kisses her and leaves. It turns out what he's doing is he's actually going to go beat the shit out of the commissioner in a case of revenge. What's interesting about it is that he does kind of admit that while obviously there's a lot of dodgy tactics with this police force, that the commissioner himself is not actually corrupt. He says that there's not an ounce of corruption in him. No. Outside of perhaps beating Tim up.
Because it's the ends justify the means, right? Is that they're upholding law and order, and they might not be doing it exactly by the book, but they're not on the take, right? At least as far as the commissioner's concerned, they're not being paid to look the other way. They're just handling things extra legally.
I would still argue that there's corruption in general with like who they serve, with like who they discriminate against, stuff like that. But by this account, it doesn't sound like the commissioner is on the take. But he beats him with a bat so bad that he has to retire. We find out in the narration, and then there's actually, sometimes they can be a little too coy with the prequel-y things where they reference something that we know from like main Batman lore or whatever. I actually quite like this one, which is admittedly at the end of the scene when he says, and they gave this a name, they called it Crime Alley. That's a bit on the nose for me, but I actually really like this idea earlier in the scene when I think this is when the commissioner's walking down at first and he's about to like hit him with a bat. He has a line that's something like in his narration that's like, this is like one of those dark places where like someone can just lose everything, or so the way he phrased it, it was like that can easily apply to like the Wayne's being murdered in an alley, just like he's about to
rule.
Yeah.
It to me, it tied the birth of Gotham to Crime Alley like it was the birth of Batman, as they both were born in the same place. And so, because he says, Slam lets Bruce know that after this commissioner had to retire, that is where the Gotham police force, as we know it, really started to take hold.
Yeah, yeah.
He says, so it was like Gotham was born anew.
He says crime got worse with that. But no, but even regardless of that, I think even just when he mentioned that, there was just a nice little tangible thematic link between, what Bruce lost in an alley and what can happen. I don't know, it felt like it was a nice little link that wasn't too on the nose. When he actually named they eventually gave it a name, Crime Alley, I was like, oh, okay, all right, it's a bit more on the nose now, but whatever.
Well, and also the way that he gets the commissioner is this is where the sex workers are, and they go down different alleys, and the people that are the guys that are visiting them take different routes, so you're not suspected, and that's how he gets the drop on the commissioner. So intimating that that's where the commissioner was going, right?
Yeah.
Or coming back from, and that's why he's able to get the drop on him. And then it's such a place that like it kind of gets brushed under the rug why the commissioner was there.
Yeah,
so they don't talk about it.
They don't want to admit that he was down there for a sex
right.
worker.
And so it's all stuff that Slam has taken into account because he understands the city on a different level. Right?
Yeah, and he even says this is like the one part of the book where when in his narration he actually sort of talks about more. Like he actually mentions Bruce. He says you wouldn't have done it like this. You wouldn't have acted on this rage. You would have made it more of a fair fight. So on, so on.
You're honor bound, and that's how we're different. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, like, I get why it does this after, because it's called Gotham City Year One, so saying a bunch of street names is kind of like fitting into the theme of like establishing that this is the city. This is like us building the city.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like there's a whole page here where he's like saying, I went through this street, cut on the corner of that street, went to this street, and it's just name drop after name drop of like artists and writers in the past. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my god, this is like, I'm just going to read some of it. Huh? I just want to like,
go do it.
I want to read this page. I took Rogers to Roses, I don't know how to say that one, and then cut over to Hamilton. I turned right on Moldov and then went left on Robbins and then merged onto Goodwin. Even at this hour, blah, blah, blah. I exited at Novik, turned left on Adams, rode all the way in Newton, and swung right into Giordano. I stayed right onto Wien, taken onto Toth, and then hanging left onto Staten, which dumped me off right onto Wolfman. Like, that is an absurd amount of names, to the point where I don't actually recognize all of them. I'm sure they're all prominent creators in Batman's past. I recognize like 2/3 of them.
Yeah. Well, there's Adams and Giordano and Ween, and a lot of the other ones feel very familiar as well. But it's just a lot. Like you could have given I recognize the Main Street.
Yeah, Rogers is an artist. Yeah, I recognize Rogers.
But I don't know. I wish that King had mixed in like a Main Street or a South Street in there with them, so it didn't just feel like he was listing Batman creators.
Yeah, it did feel like a list, which is kind of why it stuck out to me. But when he gets home, Sue, the woman who hired him for the job in the first place, is there with a gun, and we get this confrontation where she's like, I had nothing to do with the death of that kid. I didn't know that's what was at my uncle's place that you found. And if I had anything to do with it, I would have left already. But he takes the gun from her. Yeah, he grabs it out. It's a good bit of art here where the art coloring completely changes for that one panel where he snaps it out of her hand. And, what have you done? He's got her at gunpoint, and she has no reason to, well, all to save her life, I suppose, but she's got no reason to not just spill her guts out to him. And she says, you think I get any interest in any of this? I like the shiny things. Death is not my bag. This is all him. He's crazy like a bat. And then she says, F Richard Wayne, it's all his fault. And that's kind of the cliffhanger we leave on. Now, I like trying to piece together like how he's like behind this. Obviously, I don't think he wanted his child to be kidnapped or killed. Maybe the kidnapping was a staged thing to begin with, because it was him trying to. Because they mention in the book that
So yeah, I was gonna get to that.
Yeah, on you go. You can easily split it.
I was saying, so basically, what he's using now is because of the death of his daughter, he's using this as something that the city can rally behind in the, as he opens a new factory, the south side of Gotham.
Yeah, because the community's been against the building of his factory here, and now because he's poured the ashes of his dead baby daughter into the concrete, it's like no one can argue this now. This is like an act of heroism from this kind man.
Yeah, and it's like, well, no, that's something that a maniac does, which fits Gotham to a T.
Oh yeah.
Right?
So I would suspect that whatever he was doing before that led to all this was like him doing shady stuff to try and either gain favor or at least manipulate the right people behind the scenes to make sure his plans could all go to plan.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, so now this has me thinking. She says he's crazy like a bat, which nobody says that, and I get why, thematically they're trying to draw that. But we're talking about, we don't know if these are actually Bruce's grandparents, right? Like, what if this is like family-wise his great uncle, and whatever happens here leads to Bruce's grandpa actually taking over the family, right? And that's where Bruce comes
I'd have to go back and read issue 1 because I don't remember if they specifically say it's his grandfather, or if they might specifically say it's Thomas Wayne's father or something like that. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and read issue 1 and look at the exact wording of things because I don't remember.
Right, because it feels like him. This is a Lex Luthor kind of plan, and that doesn't seem to gel with Like, we know Thomas becomes a doctor, and maybe his dad is that much of a terrible person, right? That's what made him split from the family business to want to help people versus being a titan of industry type.
Maybe, yeah.
But I don't know. It just feels like there's maybe some kind of twist coming up. And
I do hope them throwing in the word bat there. Like, I hope there's like some good reason for this by the end, where I'm like, okay, that wasn't just a forced thing.
Yeah, because no one says crazy like a bat. I've never heard that ever, Yeah,
that was weird. Unless maybe we do something by the end of this that Slam's kind of old and he's slipping in this bat stuff like accidentally, like it's him that's doing this. He's unreliable.
Yeah, he's an old man on his deathbed just trying to tell a yarn, and this is how he remembers it, Yeah. So I don't know, but no, it's still. Man, it's still really good film noir. Well, I shouldn't say noir, film noir, but it's very good noir.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's a moment at the end where Batman asks about the bat symbol that he said he saw. He's like, "Wait, did I say a bat? I meant owl."
And it now puts the whole book back in a different perspective now, But yeah, I keep seeing owls on everything, and I feel like there's going to be ties to that, to the court, and them at play here.
Well, we know they've been there throughout Gotham's past.
Right?
Like that would not be a weird thing to pop up.
Right. And why wouldn't they have interest in the Waynes, right? As one of the founding members of Gotham that we know. Because in every different version we do of the Gotham history, they're one of the 4 families of Gotham that's been there from the beginning. So of course they'd have something with the owls.
And Richard Wayne being behind this that led to his daughter's death, like that would maybe explain just. I mean, he'd be angry anyway, but how extra angry he is that he feels guilt that he is some ways behind this. That could be something. Maybe this Sue was like someone he was seeing, because thematically this book set up the idea of the rich men going down to the south side to get sex workers. Maybe that's what Sue is. I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, and the fact that we saw in the last issue, Slam had tracked her down, through the jazz clubs and all that type of stuff. Like, she wouldn't be an easy woman to not get a hold of for someone like Richard Wayne,
Yeah.
So,
maybe part of the story is just going to be that Slam was just meant to be a patsy who would fail at doing whatever they hired him to do, and that's why they picked him for this sort of job. But the unfortunate reality for Wayne is that he ends up being quite good at the job and actually gets to the bottom of things.
Right, because he does care. He's not like the other people in Gotham that can look the other way.
Yeah.
Is that he can't. That's part of one of his flaws. So I like that, and I definitely feel a Chinatown kind of vibe because that is not kind of the vibe of Chinatown. It's been a while since I've seen it, but they hired Jake, almost like as a decoy from whatever else that's going on. He's supposed to be looking into something else while there's other things going on. And I'm starting to get those vibes here, especially at the end here when she brings up that she's familiar with Richard.
Yeah. So, what are you rating it?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Yeah, I agree with that. 8.5. Yeah. That's the ad. Good issue.